Hi, I'm Sean.
I'm Rhonda.
Hey, whether you've been married for a number of years or you're a newlywed, there are some practices that you can have to keep your marriage growing and strong.
Choices we make, what we do and don't do, set the trajectory for our marriage. If you're a newlywed, knowing where you want to go so you can
Yeah,
set a good
yeah.
trajectory. Or if you've been married a number of years, you might want to think, I need to change or update my trajectory
Yeah.
so that we're headed in a positive direction.
You know, sometimes we don't think in seed form that this practice or the way that I'm treating my spouse is going to end up with a lot of distance or maybe coldness in the relationship after a number of years.
Right, because the things we do or don't do actually can set up a response or series of responses in our spouse. We can train our spouse to have expectations that are positive and healthy or negative and damaging.
Sometimes we don't really think when we're experiencing something negative, what is it that set us up to get there? What is it that I did that I was responsible for? Maybe the way I responded in a negative way that got us where we are.
Or what if we are in a positive place? What set us up to get in a positive place? And we want to talk about some of those things. When we think about Revelation 2, Jesus talks about returning to your first love.
We need to be able to recount what were the things that I was doing in the beginning that got our relationship started in a healthy way.
Yeah, because the things we did before we got married that brought us together and made us think, hey, I think I would want to spend my life with you. Those are things that can be great to get a spouse, but they're also the exact things that keep one.
You know, one of our favorite verses in Deuteronomy chapter 24 and verse 5, and this is where he says, when a man's taken a new wife, that he shall not go out to war or be charged with any business, but he shall stay at home and cheer up his wife during that first year. So what's happening in that first year is establishing some habits and some ways of treating each other, paying attention to each other. They're going to put that relationship in a healthy place.
It's important what we do initially in any area of life to get going in a right direction. And this was so important. It was actually a command in the Bible, how people should be thinking and prioritizing marriage during that first year. A lot of us didn't know that when we were in our first year. We can start over and reset and come up with some new habits.
Genesis chapter 2, where he said, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. There are other relationships that we need to make less of a priority, that we may place a greater importance and value on the marriage relationship in cleaving to one's wife.
So we may have to set some boundaries around other relationships that are outside the marriage that might have a negative impact on the marriage. Good question to evaluate the different relationships and how are they having an impact from his and her perspective.
The newness does wear off after a time, but that doesn't mean that our marriage has to decrease. It's a matter of choosing to do the right thing rather than just the impetus that got you going carrying you.
One thing we can do to keep our love rich and exciting is the pursuing of each other, him and her, pursuing to know and understand with a curiosity and an interest, what does it feel like to be married to me anyway? What does it feel like to be you in the marriage, and what can I do to make it better and be always improving, always growing as a spouse?
You know, I think that word cleave there includes the word, the phrase, never stop chasing. And so you don't want to just be, men don't want to just be chasing your wife, before marriage, but you want to keep that up after the marriage.
And this is not a negative chasing as in a harassing, or you're going to
No.
listen to me, or you're going to do it my way.
Right.
That's not exactly what that's talking
So
about.
how are you going to behave when things don't go your way is an important thing to consider in our marriage relationship. Things don't always happen the way you thought they would. And so being able to have enough vision to be able to see. I need to still have a positive response to my spouse.
It's easy if our needs aren't being met the way we want them to get need focused instead of spouse focused. And the goal is, as I stand before the Lord, how does He feel I'm doing as a spouse toward who I'm married to? If it doesn't go the way I want it to, I'm not going to be blaming and accusing, and I'm not going to damage and destroy the relationship over it. I can learn to be content where I am.
You know, in James chapter 1, he said that let every man be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. And so we need to have that kind of treatment of our spouse.
Can you imagine if spouses were quick to hear? You know, one of the big problems in marriages is everybody's talking and nobody's listening. Really knowing I can hear the heart. Did I catch your message? Do you feel understood by me? You know, and holding back what I'm going to say until it's my turn, and then everybody gets an opportunity to share their hearts, and not being given to anger and explosions and negativity and defensiveness in the relationship.
You know, sometimes our communication shuts down, and one of us maybe is not being as open and honest about what's going on from their perspective. We need to make sure that we're staying open and honest with each other.
And that may mean we need to evaluate, do we have a welcoming and an approachable environment? Or do we come across in a way that if you share your heart with me, I will dismiss you, I will invalidate you, I might even be harsh towards you? Or are we accepting? I appreciate that you would share that. I need to know that perspective.
We need to make sure that we're sharing those problems as they arise in a way that doesn't come across as offensive to our spouse.
And you know what? The don't go to bed angry, you know, we can look at that as not staying mad or not speaking for a period of days, that we not do that. We can decide, even if we have something to work through, I'm still okay with you. I love you, and I choose to be happy even when we're in the middle of resolving something.
We choose our responses. I'm in control of how I respond. My spouse is not controlling me. They may do something that may be troubling, but I'm still in control of how I respond.
Because we all have baggage. We all have triggers. That's not unusual. So we can talk about them. Hey, that triggers me when this happens. But this would be a way to approach me that wouldn't trigger me. And I need to choose to heal from my triggers and seek the Lord, you know, to resolve that for me.
These are some great things that you can put into practice in your marriage relationship to help keep it growing, healthy, and strong.